Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Betafi. Today we are going to talk about Pakistan's budget, which was presented. But before that, let me also inform you about the atmospherics. If you remember, yesterday Asif Ali Zardari, former president, was arrested. He's under investigation. Today he was remanded. That is not all. There are two more developments that took place today. Hamza Shahbaz, a senior leader of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, and also son of the former Chief Minister Punjab and current opposition leader Shahbaz Sharif, was also apprehended today. And that is not all. Altaf Hussain, the news is pouring in that Altaf Hussain has been arrested in UK as well. Whether it is connected with the ongoing trials in the country or not, but he has been apprehended for spewing hate. And that is quite interesting because that case was being pled by Pakistan since 2016 when it led to attacks on two television channels. The hate speech he included in his speech, and that also killed a few people in Karachi. So this is an interesting development. Pakistan has been, in Pakistan we have been talking about transparency, accountability for quite some time. It seems that finally the country is moving in that direction with a lot of energy. So that is one aspect, and then today the budget was announced. The budget for financial year 2019-20 was presented. The outlay is 7.20 trillion. I'm not going to further dabble in facts. I've got an excellent panel here in the studio. So I'm going to introduce them and ask them to reflect on the budget and share their findings with us as well. The first guest I have in the studio is Dr. Gulfaraz Ahmed. He's an energy expert, an expert on energy-related economic policies. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Ahmed Rafiq, who is an expert in finance. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Abid Qayyum Salari Saab. He is Executive Director of Sustainable Development Policy Institute, SDPI. But that is not all. If you watch news and if you are interested in economics and if you watch our television channels, any channel in the country, you must be familiar with his name. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And Dr. Salari, I have to start with you. Give us what you think of the budget and what exactly was the item that actually stood out to you.
I was mentally prepared for a much tougher and much stricter budget.
Okay.
To me, this budget is
Softer?
much softer than what I was expecting. Okay. And let me tell you why.
Did you want the
salaried
class to be taxed beyond their wits?
I didn't want it, but let me give you the ground realities. So this is the budget in brief book, yes. The budget that was presented today. So now I'm looking at federal government's revenue after paying to provinces. Federal government would have 3462 billion rupees with it. Now look at the expenditures. Expenditures, interest payment, it is 2891 billion.
Okay.
So you have 3462 in your pocket. The first spending that you have to do.
The first header.
It is interest payment which you can't default. It is 2891. Okay. Then you look at foreign loan repayment. Foreign loan repayment is another 1095 billion rupees. Okay. So if you add both of these figures, it is 3986. So a country, federal government, which has in its pocket 3462 and has to pay 3986 as loan repayment and markup, and then it has to take care of defense and security expenditures, which is another 1152 billion rupees, and we must be thankful to our armed forces for not taking a hike in their budget. Yeah. And you have to pay for civil administration, running of day-to-day administration, and then you have to pay for PSDP, and then you have to take care of energy circular debt, and then you have to take care of all these loss-making public sector enterprises.
Okay.
So I would be very sympathetic to Hafiz Sheikh and Ahmad Azhar. And as I told you, I was prepared for much worse.
Okay.
Now, you asked me about the salient features.
No, but you have talked about an imbalance. So how exactly are they going to balance the books?
The balance the books is, again, it is like for last 15 years we have been balancing the books by borrowing more money.
Okay.
So every time, this is not unique for this, but this is unique in a sense that until last first 4 years of PMLN government, at least federal government used to have enough to take care of interest payment and defense both.
Okay.
And then they had to borrow for the rest of the two.
Right.
This is for the first time we will have to borrow for
all
for
the
defense as well.
Okay.
So and to make payment of some of the foreign loan repayments.
Okay. So not that ambitious.
Yeah,
budget.
but I think one can say our economy ship was in turbulent waters, and right now we can't think of growth or speeding up the economy. It was time to anchor.
Okay.
To get some stability and then perhaps to take some speed.
Okay.
So,
but is it not true, Dr. Saab, we have been talking about macroeconomic stabilization for past 10 years. And once again, we are going to talk
Pitafi,
about
the
that.
problem is it's not only past 10 years. We have been talking of macroeconomic stabilization for past 20 years. The problem,
Not 72.
the problem is none of the political government and army government, they can sustain pressure which start coming up from all sectors when they start taking some fiscal disciplinary measures.
Okay.
And
as we move forward in the program, we are going to talk about that as well. Allow me to actually bring in my other two guests. Dr. Ahmed Rafiq, your take on the budget?
First of all, I do agree with Solairi sir, what he has said that with this much huge what we have, the debt and debt servicing, plus other expenditures, I mean the gap between these revenues and expenditures is too much. The budget is somehow good. Again, is not too good, but again is comparatively.
What do you mean by good?
But
because it is a very loaded term. Remember,
okay, good in the sense that
this,
yes,
good for whom? For the people, for the government,
yes,
for the overall sector?
Yes, I mean, but we were expecting even the worst from this budget. But again, good in the sense is compared to the toughest. But again, it
like
is
what?
though it is tougher. But what my point of
sorry to cut you,
Yes,
but can
sorry.
you qualify what do you mean by a tough budget? Like taxing people their income, 50% of their income or something like that?
yes, I mean we're expecting more taxes, like because your fiscal deficit is almost this is more than 3,000 billion rupees.
Right.
This is too much. I mean, how you're going to finance this? This is a very big question again. But again, from before discussing the budget, I mean, what my point is, I have a different aspect. First of all, we should think that in which environment, in which economic system we are living in. The economic system, which is based on the capitalistic philosophies, we should have the class perspective. Because in this capitalistic economic system, there must be two classes. One is rich class, second is the majority of the people, they are living in this poverty.
I get it, but with due respect, you mention capitalism and then you spring on me socialist terms, right? You're talking about classes which are basically a socialist concept, right?
Yeah, socialist concept, but again, in this capitalistic system, we must have classes again. Okay. So whenever we have this capitalistic system, we should analyze the thing on class based analysis should be there again. So what my point of view is, the government makes budget for the two other stakeholders. I mean, in the society we have three stakeholders. One is government, second is businesses, third is individuals again. So government makes the budget and it should be for businesses, the objective should be the ease of doing business should go up again. And for individuals, the objective should be ease of living their lives again. Okay. So in this capitalistic system, what my point of view is, our major focus should be on the poor segment of the society. They are not having the basic sense sustenance in this system again.
So did you find something for them? Minimum wage?
No, I mean for
The
that.
social, the promise of creating more jobs? Yeah.
Okay, for
Social
me,
safety net?
yes, more social safety nets are required. But again, before this social safety nets, we need to have radical changes in our revenue system. Again, the major revenue system is your tax structure. Again, you have direct taxes, indirect taxes, the two main sources. I mean, the direct taxes ratio is not up to the mark again, which are progressive in nature.
Right. I get that, but right now we are talking about what has happened, right? We are going to talk about what should happen in a bit. Let me bring in Dr. Gulfaraz, your take on the budget overall, and then there is another question for you, sir.
Yes.
The biggest item in our import bill is always fuel, right? And we have been importing various parts of the fuel mix. Do you think that that aspect is addressed right now, because we are trying to curtail the imports and work on the exports, sir?
See, first of all, talking about the budget, this government has been there only for about 8 months.
So,
And speaking in terms of fiscal and economic situation, they hit the ground running. Most of the liabilities in terms of the foreign liabilities, loans, etc., had accrued before they actually assumed the control. So they've been discovering all the time the challenges that they actually were to face. And I don't think that they could think initially that the situation would be as bad as it actually is. So in these 8 months, at least they've been able to reduce the current account deficit by a good $7 billion. That's very creditable to them. Now, as Dr. Sulary has put before you, with over 3,000 billion rupees of shortage, the deficit budget, it was very difficult to actually satisfy all the stakeholders. And in this particular thing, despite the fact that we are facing a very serious strategic situation around the country, the defense services also felt the kind of economic situation the country was in, and they asked for no increase over the last year's budget. That is at least one thing they could happily sustain.
okay, but with due respect, people have been applauding this. My question is, should we actually work with that kind of cut?
Well, let me just say,
Because
I
there are
would want to.
locomotives, there are vehicles which are getting redundant because they are not being upgraded.
No.
And your army has to stay at its most prepared.
I'm glad that you asked this question. If you look at where, and the army chief has explained it,
Sir.
these cuts are from those administrative heads which are inconsequential.
Okay.
And those things, they said that they could easily adjust those things. These are very inconsequential, for example, administrative heads of maintaining the messes or something like that. So from that point of view, the teeth haven't been affected in the army. The army has been there for a long time, and they should have the ability to sustain their current challenges and the combat power with the same budget as last year.
Yeah.
That army thinks that they can do that.
I understand, and I get what you're saying
Yes.
when it comes to the heads that were reduced or curtailed. But with due respect, this is the year when we actually confronted India, and we had to endure a kind of violent assault from Indian side.
Absolutely.
So at that time, I mean, I can
absolutely
understand.
right. But you see, the thing is that while officers of Pakistan Army, they went along with the spirit of not taking a salary increase. Soldiers have been given, and as far as the command power a component is concerned, that's being served
Right.
as needed. So there is a very substantial, spirited cut in the defense budget, but it doesn't affect the bones.
Okay.
Coming to the budget nature, with that level of fiscal deficit and the challenges, there's no doubt that one was very fearful that budget would be very, very onerous. It is onerous. Let me say this thing, that if you look at the new taxes, tax on poultry, tax on meat,
Okay.
those are the almost perishable.
Okay.
And if you look at the cost of index,
Are you talking about FE that has been increased?
yes,
Yeah.
that's right. The sales tax has been levied on those.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the cost of index, most of the people are surviving only because of access to poultry meat,
Yeah.
and they're meeting the sort of protein needs, and there's going to be 17% general sale tax on it. So budget is very tough. Once, of course.
I'm glad that you mentioned poultry as well. See, you are an energy expert,
Yes.
and usually people talk only about making electricity and all those things. In the world now, when they talk about energy, they're talking about human energy intake as well.
Human energy.
They're talking about food
Yes,
as well.
Food also has element.
Yeah.
But one thing I must say that that budget is innovative.
Okay.
They have looked at various reform areas.
Right.
It is not that it's a routine budget. They have done some thinking, and there are reform areas. And the fact that they have been able to create those reform areas, they have the resource constraints. But if they didn't have
And
this much of resource
that is
constraints,
visible, but since Dr. Saleri has opened up that budget
Yes.
book, I'm sure that he
I
is
close-
preparing for some
I close-
references he is going to give us.
Yes.
I don't want him to fold it, and he has. Sir,
मैं
you
इसको
want,
एनर्जी के ऊपर आ रहा था.
sir, and we are going to actually continue on that as well. Allow me to actually go back to him.
Okay.
Sir, when you talk about overall situation, can you identify how much or quantify how much deficit we have right now, fiscal deficit, and what exactly is the aim?
The fiscal deficit that we have right now is the 3574 billion rupees. 3.5 trillion rupees is our fiscal deficit.
Okay.
We are expecting that provinces, they will throw some surplus, 423 billion, which is not going to happen. Provincial surplus means that provinces, they don't present a deficit budget and they give federation
surplus.
some surplus.
Okay.
So it's 3.5 trillion rupees deficit, and that's why I was telling you that I was prepared for worst. I think government, of course, did some good things in the budget. Of course, there are certain things which would hit certain segments of society. Government could have increased GST by 1%, which could have led to inflation and which could have disturbed all the masses across income spectra.
Okay.
PMLN and PPP, both the governments, when they went to entered in an IMF program, they jacked up this GST by 1%. This government refrained from doing it. But one thing that they have done, and I would say it's on a positive note, at least for a short term, they have ended this restriction on non-filers to invest in property.
Property.
I think that was an uncalled for decision taken in the sixth budget of last government.
Yeah, but the present government also had a kind of flip-flop on that.
Yeah, but
at the start
but now for once they have taken this stance because I think there are two things. One is filer and non-filer, they should be allowed to spend, and the other thing is FBR should be vigilant enough to reach any person who is not paying taxes and who is buying property or who is doing anything beyond his income to go and ask for means of income. Restricting that money was actually leading to dollarization of economy.
Right.
And people, they have been, instead of investing in property, whole year they kept on investing in dollars.
Okay.
And that is partly the reason when we see this whole demand on for dollars in open market, it was those people who had nothing to do with their rupee and they thought, okay, if they can't buy property, why not to buy dollars? And I think it would somehow bring some of those dollars back to open
The
market,
system,
and you will find this circulation of economy.
Right.
That's a good point.
Second thing that the government have done is this end of zero rated regime for 5 export industries.
Okay.
Leather, garment, you had sports goods, you had carpets, you had surgical item, you had textile. So all these 5 for last many decades, they have been provided with all sort of incentives in the name of boosting our exports.
Yeah.
And we know that majority of this was actually being misused. There was incidents of over invoicing.
Okay.
There were other incidences as well. I am
So
for.
is it also part, is it why there was some kind of deadlock between the government and APTMA a few days ago?
It was. And I am for such incentive, but those should be on performance basis.
Okay.
So if the government, they set some targets for these industries, small and medium and large industries, just give them some targets, and those who would be meeting those targets, they may be provided with some incentives next year. But providing incentives across board, this zero rated exemption 17% on GST, I think that was an anomaly. And instead of taxing the common masses, government, they took this decision. I wish that government can actually sustain the pressure from industry, and
that becomes a problem.
and not reverse this.
Yeah,
decision.
but they still haven't started taxing the agricultural sector.
Agriculture, this is again, the federal government would be very conveniently saying that this is a provincial subject.
It is.
But then, of course, we must stress upon
The framework.
PTI as well as People's Party that in their provincial budget they need to set some sort of threshold of income, and income from all legitimate sources, either from agriculture or from any other, it must be taxed. Now,
But federal government can't do anything about it.
federal
They can't even lay out the
No.
ground rules.
no, they can't.
Say
According to 18th Amendment, they can't.
Purely.
But agriculture is contributing 20% to our GDP, and the total contribution of
Don't
taxes.
get me, sorry to cut you, but don't get me wrong. When we talk about national curriculum,
Yeah.
the center can do something about it. When we talk about healthcare, despite devolution, the center can do something about it. But when it comes to economy or taxing the right kind of
Because
people,
provinces, they are-
then we have to resort
Yeah,
to
because
18th Amendment.
provinces, they are supposed to generate their own revenue,
Okay.
and this is one of the source from where they can increase.
And
the
if they are going to be complacent, for example, Sindh government will never give, tax the agricultural sector.
But then PTI perhaps should start taxing the
In
income.
Punjab?
I'm not talking of agriculture.
Okay.
I'm talking of income on agriculture above a certain threshold.
Or at least some kind of a state tax.
There must be.
Because you are inheriting that land,
Yeah.
why not actually give some tax on that?
Yes. So I think that needs to be seen. But some of the steps, they are really good. I think one thing that would hurt and pinch the most, that is the noose is being tightened against non-filers.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that all the non-filers, they are non-taxpayers. There may be many taxpayers who actually get their taxes deducted at source. Many of the employees of private sector or public sector, but they don't file their return.
Okay.
But now, if you see in this budget, non-filers, they are being asked to pay more advance tax compared to the filers for each and every transaction that they would.
I love it when we are talking about so many nuances. But when it comes to implementation, our system is so broken, or our bureaucracy, that it ends up in taxing the wrong kind of people.
If the government is not able to do it, then I tell you that IMF this time
is going to come and do it.
Is going to end this
Okay.
program non-conclusively, ending it, and premature ending of IMF program. That would hurt our economy.
Incidentally, what is our status with IMF right now?
These are some of the prior requirements which you saw in the budget.
Okay.
Those were the prior.
Because we had a technical staff level agreement.
So technical technical staff level agreement, IMF they gave us some prior conditions and prerequisites to meet. Those are the prerequisites that we are meeting now.
Okay.
Then they linked it with the assurance from friendly states
Okay.
that the loan that they have given us, it would be rolled over next 3 years.
Okay.
So we got this assurance from Saudi Arabia when they formally announced this deferred oil payment facility and
Okay.
others.
Okay.
Now an executive board meeting would take place. if I'm-
When? Do we have any timeline?
Yes, we have a timeline. That would be in July.
Okay.
And,
Next month.
Yeah, next month, and most probably by the end of July,
Okay.
if we meet all these requirements, IMF program would start.
Okay.
So these are some of the requirement. So basically, what the point I'm trying to make that fiscal discipline is important right now.
It is.
For stability.
It is for us as well.
For us,
And, yeah.
us as well.
One has to talk about these matters, but again, since I'm coming back to Dr. Ahmed Rafiq, the question, since you were talking about classes and the depressed classes particularly, do you think that minimum wage is going to, this slight increase in the minimum wage is going to have some kind of positive impact? And secondly, when the government talks about safety nets, housing programs, healthcare, other aspects, is it going to contribute at all?
Yes, if you have sound safety nets then. But again, the point is, are you able to go for the safety nets? Again, this is a big question mark. Do you have the space? Do you have the revenues with you? You have resources that you can cope up with these safety nets? This is a big question, because you don't have the revenues which are required to protect a major segment, which is a number of people which are below the poverty line, and a number of people who cannot afford the basic needs. Again, the point is, as Surai Sahib was talking about, that IMF has the conditions again. IMF
Very smartly done, sir.
Yes.
You have moved away from safety nets and now you're
we'll
talking
talk
about
about
IMF.
this. Yes, we'll talk
No,
about this.
but I have another question for you.
Yes.
Government has allocated.
Yeah.
Whatever was possible, they have allocated to those safety
Yes,
nets.
whatever.
No, they have, but I have another question in this context, and that is very important. We keep on talking about minimum wage as if it is something that is happening on ground. But it is a pledge. When it comes to implementation, I haven't seen anybody being paid that money.
Yes.
Driver, cyclist, I mean, people at low
At
wage.
least in public sector
Yeah,
and some
labor, yeah,
decent
exactly.
private sector.
Private sector, people are not being paid that much money.
Okay.
So what happens now?
Yes, implementation is an issue, but again, the 17,500 rupees. Do you think
So implementation is the issue.
is a big issue? Yes, I do agree.
Without that,
Okay.
this pledge means nothing.
Okay, if still we have the implementation, do you think with this 17,500 rupees, a person is able to meet his or her family expenditure, or the basic expenditures of
No, I
his
get
family?
that. This is a
Yes.
good complaint or concern.
Yes.
But I tell you something very interesting. When Benazir Income Support Program first was rolled out, and they were talking about 1,000 rupees per household, we were taken aback by the sheer, the quantum, the little amount they were being paid. But in the end, we learned that to the targeted people, even that contributed something. I mean, at this moment, at least standardization at the very lowest level should be there. It is minimum wage, it is not maximum wage. Nobody is saying that only give them 17,500, don't give them 19 or 20,000.
Okay, now the question then, the question arises that is this amount is going to increase the standard of living of those people? Again, what my point was, I mean, in this capitalistic system where we have two classes, we have a statement that the vicious circle of poverty, again, a number of people, they are living this vicious circle of poverty. The main concern is, the main point is, who is going to have concern about these people again? Whether
The state of
standard
Pakistan?
yes, state is responsible. Whether the standard of living of those people will increase or not again. So what I believe that until unless we have the radical changes, because safety nets need resources, and resource generation, from where you are going to generate
So
resources.
what are
again.
those revolutionary changes we need?
Yes, radical changes in the tax system, I mean, very much required.
How?
Yes,
I mean, everybody has been trying to do that, but
again,
nobody achieves
yes,
it.
this is a very big question again. This is difficult to do again. Direct tax ratio should be very high. Again, indirect
I
taxes
wish it
which are
was too.
regressive. But again, the big question is who is going to do this again? This is a big question. This is a political
It's
economy.
undocumented economy. Where can you increase the direct taxes? This is a challenge.
Yeah.
So it has to be something practically relevant. You know, radical changes in taxation. It has to relate to our circumstances.
Actually, sir, since we are talking about documentation, here's the thing. Government of Pakistan worked out a system ages ago where you, parole and all, where you can have all that details of people who are non-filers but who have stashed money. Nobody is doing anything so far. I mean, I'm not talking about this government, previous government, and the previous to that. We kept on asking this question and they never had a clue.
Yes.
Right.
And, I mean, due to this elite capture what we have in our society, I mean, it is difficult to do this to increase the direct tax ratio. Again, these sort of radical changes, it is close to impossible. Again, this is a very big issue. One, but again, if you are not going to do this, so what will be the option? The option then will be the IMF loans. Again, external loans, 3,000. More than 3,000 billion rupees of fiscal deficit. How you are going to finance this? By borrowing more again? Is this the answer?
No,
Then
but
this is a trap,
you
it's a
are,
debt trap again.
You are actually bringing to life all the nightmares I fear.
Yes.
You have to tell me what are the solutions, or whether some answer has been found in this budget or not.
No, I mean, the budget is basically the reflection of this system again. If the system, I mean, rules, regulations, budget or policy, public policies, these are subservient to this system again. The system which is based on the capitalistic, again my point is capitalistic philosophy in which we have different classes again.
Pakistan is a capitalist society. I mean, one has to agree,
so,
right?
So poor segment have to suffer then again. The poor
Yeah,
segments
but,
of the society.
I remember Reagan saying that if you truly want to help the poor, help the rich get richer.
Yeah.
Because they generate opportunities.
Trickle down
Yes,
effect.
trickle down trap is there again. The trickle down phenomena is basically not, this is capitalistic term again.
True,
is a
but,
trap
but with due respect, if trickle down doesn't work, same as the case with socialism. One country has fallen, others might fall. So socialism also has failed, sir. So we have to actually, when we are talking about radical ideas, let us talk about something that is realistic.
Yes, realistic.
Energy.
Yes, sir.
Energy. You know, energy import is a very big factor in Pakistan. And the import is continuing to increase. Here I just want to give you, how do you look at the energy security of a country?
Sir.
It isn't if a country is self-sufficient or near self-sufficient energy that it has the energy security. Japan imports 95% of the energy, but it has energy security. The most important thing is your energy import bill as a fraction of your total export earning.
Right.
If you have that, a healthy ratio, you have the energy security because the energy is available in the world, you get. For example,
it is not healthy. Furnace oil tops it because of electricity, and then diesel because of our trucks.
I'm telling something entirely different, that if we had our total energy import, whatever it is, furnace oil, diesel, LNG, if it was less than 15% of our total export earning, it would not hurt your economy to continue to import them.
Right.
But in our case, it goes 30-40%, and therefore energy import is a very big drag on Pakistan's economy.
Sure.
Now, here I just want to say that last government had a God-sent relief. For example, 2013-14, your energy import stood at $14 billion.
Okay.
The following year, it became $10 billion. Despite the fact that energy import quantum increased in 2015-16, $7 billion. So you had more energy imported and 70. I was at that time hoping and wishing that this help from the blue, about 15-20 billion rupees in 3 years, it should have been used to either pay off our debts are a special undertaking.
Right.
Anyway, one doesn't know that. Right now, the oil price is recovery mode.
Okay.
And because oil price is recovery mode, therefore our energy import bill is also increasing. But there is one positive thing about energy import, that we are not now importing only oil. When you are thinking of importing energy, you have to think of end-use economics. If you're going to import oil and then use power generation, end-use economics are negative. But if you're going to use, we were going to generate electricity and import LNG, end use is very positive, because compared with oil, it has nearly half the cost of generation. So we are now increasing LNG in the mix. It will take time before we can improve the energy mix. And for LNG,
how much time, sir?
Oh, I'm coming. For LNG, they've given a little relief. They reduced the import duty on LNG.
Okay.
Actually, if I were to suggest to them that for a year or two, remove most of the import duty on LNG,
Okay.
let we get the benefit of replacement of the oil,
Okay.
or the fuel oil, which is crippling our economy on one hand, and also creating this circular debt in the energy sectors, almost making it insolvent. But this was a
One more question,
smart
sir.
move.
Although
Yes.
it doesn't have anything to do with
Yes.
our budget or import or exports, our agreements with IPPs, there was one big revelation that I came across during the previous CJ's time, when the Law and Justice Commission actually came up with a report on the matter. In that, they actually provide information that if our IPPs were to shut their business, the contracts are so constructed that they would benefit more than actually functioning.
Yes.
So do you think we need to renegotiate those agreements?
Let me tell you
as well?
something. You put your finger on something which is extremely onerous for Pakistan's energy sector. I want to tell you this thing. In 1990s, to be more precise, 1994, this new energy policy, I was partaking the development new policy on the fuel side, and there was another famous private sector gentleman who was heading the power side.
Sir.
And he's still in right now at the moment, having some responsibility in this government. And when, for the first time, they shared that we are going to get 6.5 cents, the tariff, it was almost twice the going rate.
Okay.
But then, what was the much more harmful thing was that the fuel cost was passed through.
Okay.
So all those energy companies for the last 20 years who've been running their plants, they had no regard for improvement in energy efficiency because the fuel cost was passed through.
Right.
So IPPs had two very gross provisions. One, the fuel cost was passed through, and therefore they would not improve the fee. The second was that the price had two components: capacity price, 4.5 cents, and the energy price, about 2 cents. So if they did not generate,
Okay.
they will still get 4.5 cents. Okay. So although out of the energy price too they make money because they are incentive to fuel cost, but they would continue to have a fair amount of returns on the capacity price.
So we need to, or can we renegotiate that?
You see, I want to give you a case to you of renegotiation of energy prices. Was Americans, they had entered into gas price purchase agreements. And those agreements were very onerous. And then both sides could not sustain it, and they did the renegotiation, broke the contract and negotiated. In our case,
I mean,
It's
बहुत
very
दूर की
difficult.
कौड़ी लाए. You are talking about America. I mean, they can get away with renegotiating.
But last point is
our
for
problem
new
is whenever we
contracts-
try to.
But, Mr. Patafi, if we cannot get away from those old contracts, in any case now the cost is coming down because they were front loaded and now the tariffs are less. At least the new IBPs, we should be the fuel cost should be included
Right.
and the tariff should
Let
be low.
me take this question to Dr. Saleri. Sir, when it comes to the cost of energy generation, power generation, we have these agreements that are very heavy in our neck. What exactly can we do about it?
Well, that's a really catch-22 situation. We have to pay these capacity charges for all the power plants. Those were installed here under CPEC arrangement. Government has given sovereign guarantees against it. And these capacity...
You're talking about the current ones, CPEC ones.
Yeah.
And what about the others?
So those are already
Old
there.
ones.
So those capacity charges, now they are a major factor in our energy circular debt. The problem is we have the generation capacity which is in excess to what we can consume. But because if we will keep on using them, we will have to pass on the tariffs to our consumers. Consumers, they have the tendency to go off-grid. Off-grid would mean that we will have to keep on paying those capacity charges without using the capacity of those generation plants. So this is really tricky situation.
Okay,
So,
that point is well made. Now, very quickly, how optimistic are you that in coming days this budget is going to be executed
Pitafi,
in letter and spirit?
there is no good or bad budget, and there is no good or bad economics.
Yeah.
I can argue that best of the best policies, they pinch and they hurt some segment of society in economy,
Sure.
and worst of the worst policies, they give benefit to some. So budget is there. At least my word of optimism is that good or bad, it is now, it would bring some sort of certainty in our economic system, which during the last year, IMF or no IMF, change in economic teams, all other factors. So people, they were reluctant to make investment, they were reluctant to make plans. Now the framework is there, and if we have to be in IMF program, this framework would be for the next 3 years.
Okay.
So now at least business and markets.
We have a direction.
So they have a direction, and they would have to adjust to it.
And you are optimistic.
I am optimistic.
Are you optimistic? So very quickly, I'm told that we have run short of time.
Sir,
Yes or
until,
no?
I mean, but my point is until unless we have radical changes, I mean, budget are just numbers again. I mean,
Right.
The
But
policy
change
is
for the
much
sake
more
of change is an argument that is often made.
Yes.
But one has to qualify that change as well, and someday perhaps we will
Yes,
be
I
able
do.
to.
I
Optimistic,
think
sir?
the government has made some tough choices.
Right.
And they've already shown the reduction of $7 billion of current account. I'm optimistic.
Right. At least two of my participants are optimistic that we have found a way. The third things that we still need.
Dr.
a lot
Imran
of-
is very theoretical.
Yeah, we
you
still
know.
have to actually stick to the guns and demand that there should be more reform, radical reform, as he puts it. But on that note, Dr. Gulfraz Ahmed, thank you very much sir, for your time. Dr. Amir Rafiq, thank you very much for your time as well. And Dr. Abid Qayyum Saleri, I know this is your day. You must be very busy today, must be tired as well. Thank you very much for your time as well. Viewers, we have listened to our participants. Optimism is there. We still have to wait and see how it is executed. But one thing is for sure. In this country, there are two models we have seen in the past 10 years. One is People's Party's model, where the finance minister every year used to change. The other was PMLN's model, where the finance minister never changed, and the moment he was changed, entire thing actually went to collapse, right? So at this moment, it is important that we have to stabilize ourselves and we have to stabilize the policy choices we have made. Let us hope in coming days government finds that stability and people stand with it as well. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.